Hello, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Magic Mics. We get started, as we do each and every week, by introducing my two co-hosts, Ruben Bressler.
Oh, hey there.
Aaron Campbell.
Happy Wednesday.
I'm pretty sure I only checked 3 times. The microphone is correctly selected, so there's no more of that.
We'll see. We'll see soon.
Jesus, I'm so sorry.
I have no idea what's happening here.
I feel awful.
Remember the last couple weeks, Evan's mic was
yeah.
not cooperative. Hey, no mic problems confirmed by chat. All right.
It was like a scene from that movie Unfriended where he just starts fading out and warping, like someone's taking over.
You watched Unfriended, huh?
I did. In the theater. I paid full money for that.
Wow. You were one of the 7 people that did.
It actually did quite well.
It did okay.
For a low-budget horror film.
All right. So our first pick, as we get around to each and every week, talk about what's going on. And sometimes the first pick happens today. And what happened today was Wizards announced the coolest thing, which is that a Pro Tour Gauntlet is coming to Magic Online. So here's what they're going to be able to let you do. You're going to be able to pay a fee, whether it's $1 or 6 tickets. And 60 fun bucks, 6 tickets. And you can test drive top decks from the Pro Tour. When you join, with your entry option and the 8-player queue fires, you'll get to use a random deck from the Gauntlet. You'll get to look over your deck and sideboard for a few minutes, and you can hit the submit button, and you're ready to start playing. You'll play 3 Swiss rounds, not single limb Swiss rounds, and you earn prizes based on how many matches you win. All the decks will be from modern decks with a strong finish in the Pro Tour, which are selected for the Pro Tour Gauntlet by Magic R&D. And this is very, very significant. This is as significant as the cube being added to Magic Online, in my opinion. This is absolutely huge. This basically opens the floodgates. It enables us to slowly but surely let us pay Wizards a fee so they can let us play with cards that we don't necessarily digitally have a 0 or 1 in their database. You can just say, hey, here's some money. Let me play with something really sweet. Maybe it's only for a short time, but it's going to be great while I got it. So, Ruben, how do you feel about this coming to Magic Online?
This is the first step towards building Phantom Constructed. That is huge. This is a thing that people have been wanting to have come to Magic Online digital objects for as long as it's been a thing. People have wanted to be able to, quote unquote, rent decks or spend time playing constructed formats without fully investing in a deck themselves. This is very similar to what everyone would want. This is a huge step forward in terms of making the viability of playing online pick up and play, being able to just start playing with a constructed deck. Now there is you are randomly assigned one of the however many decks is going to be. It's probably going to be like 25, maybe 35 decks at the most. And you're going to randomly be assigned. Let's say Andrew Cuneo shows up, and you're only going to have a 1 in 35 chance of getting Andrew Cuneo's sweet deck that you want to play with. Right. You're more likely going to get the burn deck because more top finishers had the burn deck or something like that.
I don't think there's going to be any repeats in whatever number they choose.
That would be good. If there are no repeats, then that's even better.
And me getting the burn deck over
then you get to have the super awesome, whatever storm thing that Pantheon puts together. There's going to be you get to pick up and play Modern, a format that's not cheap, that a lot of people aren't fully invested in,
right?
That lets you dip your toes into the format, and I am just desperately and madly in love with this announcement. Kudos to Wizards. Also, interesting point: 60 play points to sign up. 2 match wins give you 60 play points, so you can go infinite and play as many of these as you want if you go 2-1 or better in every one you enter.
Nice, Aaron.
Yeah, I'm really excited about this. I went to the Community Cup a year and a half ago, and we got to do a Q&A with the big players behind Magic Online, and that was the question I asked, is do you guys see yourself getting to a point where we can just pay a flat fee each month and have a pool of cards to choose from? And at the time, they said it wasn't something they were really looking into, and I was a little disappointed. And so, this made me really happy. I'm a little disappointed that it's only good for a week. Like, it's only good for the Wednesday after the Pro Tour and then the following Wednesday. So, hopefully they'll open it up a little bit, because I can see this being, as common as the other Phantom events, or as common as the Cube is, or as long lasting as that is. And I personally really like this because I like to do something called virtual F&M on Fridays. Hey, ladies, with some of my girlfriends. And it's always really difficult when one of you has the deck on Moto, the other doesn't. And so one of you has to, for one person, you have to tilt your camera down to play on paper, and you need cockatrice to play with this person. And it's really nice where it's like, do we want to play Modern? Sure. And we can all just jump in, and it doesn't matter whether somebody has the cards or not. You can all just play with who you want to play with.
Nice.
Yeah, this to me definitely looks like something that they're trying out. They don't want to go too far, and I understand it. You don't want to kind of go all in on an idea that looks and sounds fantastic but may not work out in the real world. So when this thing is crazy successful, which I absolutely believe it is, I know I'm definitely going to be playing at least a good half dozen queues of this. Sounds fantastic. Just on this description. I'm not even, show me some decks, whatever, let's do it, let's go, give me some Jund, let me play some Tron. Like, that would be super sweet. And so being able to show that this type of Phantom event works, one of the other things that says, why can't I choose my deck? This is done to make the event more about trying things out than normal constructed Magic. Additionally, if players could choose their decks, the Pro Tour Gauntlet could be reduced to just the decks perceived to be the best, and players would face a large number of mirror matches. No one cares. Wizards, no one cares. This negative that you're trying to tell us is not a negative, and nobody cares.
I think it's more entertaining, though, especially if you're watching a streamer, if you're, again, if it's me, if I'm streaming and people know that I don't like burn and I keep getting burned, that's hilarious. Or, if somebody has a deck, if Ruben's never played Storm before, if anybody's never played Storm before, and you happen to draw a Storm and you're like, what on earth? I think that creates a really cool experience.
Well, all things, go ahead.
Sorry, I'm going off on a random direction, but I remember when I was pretty young and just starting playing Magic, I remember the Pro Tour Champion winning decks were things you could buy with the World Championship backs instead of the Magic the Gathering
and the gold
backs.
Border.
And the gold borders and stuff like that.
And
I remember my one of the guys in my card shop had all of them, and I just picked out one of them. We started playing, and I had no idea what the deck did. It was a recurring nightmare survival of the fittest deck, and I just never put it together that those two cards worked together. I was 13, so I was
of course,
just
it was
awesome. I
awesome.
just play this, and then I play this thing that brings it back, or I just go search for the I see these combo. It took me 5 games to figure it out.
Right.
And so hopefully there's something like that. I'm not sure that it's very intuitive, for example, for Scape Shift. Certainly things like the new Eggs deck would be something that would be very difficult for a lot of people because they've just never seen anything like it before. So I'm very excited to pick up some things that I perhaps don't even understand myself and try them. I know what lighting people on fire is all about, but and of course I'd love to get the burn deck, but sometimes it's good to dip your toes in something else. And,
well, it is.
It gives a really cool opportunity for that.
All I'm noting is that they sound like, well, we're protecting you from this bad experience. It's not a bad experience. It would in fact create its own metagame at that point. You'd be like, well, this mirror is bad, but this card destroys that, or this deck destroys that deck because it's getting really popular. Because it's the rock paper scissors of a metagame that we like in anyway.
It also lets. Sorry. I was just going to say. Oh no! Oh no! Oh god!
Aaron, go.
I was just going to say I think that's a good idea in theory, but I think the problem with that is that if the deck you pick, because these are pre-constructed decks, if that person didn't really prepare for the mirror or didn't have as many tools for that or for other decks, you could be screwed that way. And so I think that's a good idea in theory, but you don't know what this person is packing.
Well,
and if they didn't prepare their deck for a gauntlet like this, it may be bad.
But that in and of itself leads it to, well, if you're in this mirror, this is how you win it because you have no sideboard cards. Or maybe it's a coin flip and you're just going to get lucky. But
look, if you dig deep enough into anything that anyone ever does, you're going to find a downside. I am very. We're straining to find something bad to say about this.
This is good.
Good job, Magic Online.
No, Magic Online killed it. All I'm saying is that if they wanted to improve this in the future, that is something that I think would improve this scenario.
I like the randomness.
But I don't care. Again, I just want to see Pro Tour top 8s. I want to see, vintage, the Vintage Super League. I want to play 6 tickets and play a vintage deck on Magic Online.
Oh my god, Bazaar of Baghdad. Oh.
That would be so
Wouldn't that be totally sweet?
If they did a partnership with the Vintage Super League or the Standard Super League or other Pro Tours that are standard, I'm all for it.
Old World Championship
100%
decks,
on board.
or World
Take
Championship
my money,
decks
Wizards.
from X to Y year, just whatever. Like, I want to play the Dragonstorm deck, you know, Chapin's Dragonstorm deck, or the Insight Memories thing that, you know, that Nassif was playing, all that crazy stuff. Wizards just absolutely killed it, but we got to keep moving. So we're going to go to the O2 drops. Now, we have a bit of a different segment order this week than usual. We kind of wanted to switch it up. So these days, starting for this year, the season that began this year, or whatever, Grand Prix allowed people who were 6 and 3 to make day 2. There was a non-zero amount of gnashing of teeth about what that means and how that impacts things and how it slows things down and how now there's so many people who are drafting on day 2 that they've never seen so many, and so on and so forth. Aaron, you noted that you wanted to bring this up because you felt like you had a few things to say about
it. Yes. Yeah, so I had a handful of friends who were at GP Vancouver this past weekend, and I knew 3 people who made day 2 for the first time ever. Shout out to Kale, Jordan, and Carolyn. Very proud of you guys. And they were stoked. They were like, I don't know how I got here. I don't think they had any buys. Like, I think they played all 9 rounds and got their 6 and 3 and were able to make day 2, and they were really excited about that. And I was really surprised. You know, I like to click on a hashtag and see what the discussion looks like. So when I clicked on the GP Vancouver hashtag, I was really surprised that there were several pros that were kind of poo-pooing the whole thing and that were like, why would you do this if you can't make any money? The day is going to be really long. I don't know if I can leave on Sunday now. This is such an inconvenience. This was such a bad idea. People were blowing up Helen's Twitter feed and telling her how awful it was. And I was just really disappointed because I feel like, first of all, I find it interesting that the same pros that would tell people that the way to get better at this game is to play better people are getting pissed at people who are stoked that they can go 6 and 3 and play better people. What? Yeah. What? Like, what is that?
You're not wrong.
So that made me mad. And then number 2, you know, I think that it's clear to me that there has been a shift away from GPs as being these super spiky events. I mean, you still can go and spike a GP, but we are seeing a lot more emphasis on panels. You know, you can go and see LSV will teach you how to build a deck, or EFR will tell you how to draft. You're seeing a greater focus on cosplay. You know, Christine Sprinkle, MJ Scott, Jacqueline Folia, they're bringing them out. You're seeing a focus on artists. You know, there's a move away from just getting these competitive players to come. We forget that we live in a vacuum sometimes, that not everybody goes to opens and GPs, and so they're doing these things to bring, you know, more kitchen table players, more F&M warriors to GPs, and this is who this is aimed at. If this is something that doesn't benefit you, then drop. You don't have to play day 2. If you don't like your 6 and 3, you can O2 drop. That's fine. Mm-hmm. But for those of us who, oh my God, I've never done this before, what's the harm in that? Like, I don't understand why people would have a problem with that.
It to me just highlights a disconnect. So, Ruben, before we get you in there, I want to put something on the screen, which is Mr. Patrick Sullivan tweeted today, which I think is a very nice follow-up to this. A friend just excitedly showed Patrick about a dozen unsleeved decks, roughly 100 cards, and now I'm really sad about how I engage with Magic. And he, you know, it's those types of interactions that make you realize that we are really odd ducks sometimes. We are really unique, special, you know, magic-y players. Yeah, we're the super specialist snowflakes right up there in the 1% or whatever.
That's right.
Because we care about this metagame. We care about constructed. We know all the cards. We know what's coming up. We know what the big events this weekend. We're really stoked to watch the Pro Tour all weekend. We are not the Magic player, the generic, the average.
The majority.
We're just not. We don't understand it anymore that way. Now, I remember there was a point in time in which I had 100-card unsleeved decks that were bringing me more joy that they cannot in a million years bring me now, because I know too much about Magic. Basically, I've seen too much, I know too much, I have too much in it. It's also one of the reasons that I have a really difficult time teaching Magic, because to me, I'm so used to doing everything hyper efficiently. You know, did you see this ability? It's the end of my turn. Maybe you should do this. Why aren't you playing this instant when you need to? Not right now during your main phase. Stuff like that, which is really hard to kind of put that stuff together when you're just starting to figure it out. So, Ruben, how do you feel about this 6 and 3? You know, perspective on being a normal, regular, average Magic player?
The thing is, I've never been. I started playing on the junior series basically as soon as I started playing Magic. I've never been a casual. Mm-hmm. I went through the life cycle in an accelerated way, so like I never had that, you know, adolescent phase of Magic where I played on the kitchen table. Mm-hmm. I mean, I've played on kitchen tables before, but that's because we were play testing for the PTQ that weekend or whatever. I've always been a spiky spike. Mm-hmm. And so, you know, you're right. We are, you know, special, unique tropical fish when it comes to the way that we view Magic. And And I think that it's good to remember that we are not necessarily the target audience. And the shift in focus of GPs to be less about the tournament and more about the experience with artists, with cosplayers, with panel discussions, and all of the things that come with it is part of that growth process. You know, you're trying to get more people into the game. And if they want to be competitive, there is that aspect too. It's the central part of any Grand Prix is the actual Grand Prix itself. But I know people that go to Grand Prix and don't play in the main event. They just hang out and draft. They bird their friends.
They trade.
They trade. They get their prize wall tickets. They do all these other things.
Right.
Get their cards signed, meet the artists, stuff like that. And so I think that the shift to 6 and 3 to make day 2 does a couple of good things that someone like me might, when I first heard that it was going to be 6 and 3, I was like, huh, that's weird. It doesn't seem like that's a good change. I don't know why you would want to make day 2 bigger. But then once I got outside of my own brain, I realized, well, you get more experience playing in a major tournament. You get to play against better competition longer for more rounds, and you get to say, "Hey, I went and I made day 2." That's a big thing. For I made my first day 2. Or I made my first 7 and 3 or 7-2 record to get into day 2.
Right.
And I've been retweeting the stats whenever I see them from particularly from Chris Massioli and from Jeff Hoogland had been working on the math on how what percentage of players make money, make pro points and stuff like that when they make day 2. And it's a non-zero number. I think that it's enough that it warrants the change, but that isn't the main reason for the change. And the main reason for the change is to make even tournament Magic more friendly. And of course, when you're 10 and 2, 11 and 2, it's going to be a different feeling than when you're at the other side of the room at X and 4 with 3 rounds to go. It's going to be a different feeling, but you get to be in the same tournament. You get to be near that excitement, and it's going to make you want to play more competitive Magic. And anything that makes people want to play more tournament Magic, it's all upside.
Yeah, in fact, one of my friends, my friend Kale, who did make the day 2, she didn't really play it out. Like she dropped, I think, when she had a couple losses, but she dropped because she was like, okay, I've learned a lot today and I need to process all of this. And she went into it with the right attitude. And, we have a Facebook group called Ladies on the Grind, which is about ladies Magic players. And we were so stoked, and she was so stoked. And we made all these memes. We did that really annoying Bob meme that's going around. We did one for each of the ladies at day 2. And we were like, Carolyn is good at Magic. Be like Carolyn, and it was really awesome. But just to see these people again who'd never done it before, there was just so much elation of oh my god, and that's the way it should be. It shouldn't be like day 2, whatevs. No, it's day 2.
If you've gotten so jaded that day 2 and other people making day 2 is causing you to have negative experience, you should just back up a little bit and get some perspective on how it was.
Yeah,
when you weren't that good at Magic, it's a huge deal. It really
not only are you alive and you get to play Magic the Gathering, but also you get to make day 2.
Quite the first world of problems, let me tell you. But regardless, that was interesting. But we're going to move on to something even more, I can imagine, interesting, if you will, in Desperate Ravings. So this kind of also popped up today. Lots of news happened today, right before the show started. The Northwest Regional Coordinator, Mr. Dan Stevens, a fantastic human being, a wonderful judge. I've known him for a long time. He put an announcement up basically explaining that he has resigned as regional coordinator of the Northwest region of America. And he notes that he's choosing to resign based on how Wizards handled the suspension of the Southeast judges during the last 2 months. I believe the suspensions were a mistake that seriously damaged the morale of the judges and strained the already troubled relationship between Wizards and the judge program. He lost a lot of faith in Wizards, and as such, he was unable to sign the RC contract with a company that I don't know I can support anymore. He notes, I haven't quit as an L3 for now, though I haven't applied to any events yet this year. And then he notes here at the end, I promised complete transparency when I started as an RC, and now you know. And hey, man, props. First of all, serious props.
Yeah, sticking to your guns is a term that's thrown around quite a bit, and this is not an exaggeration. When you say you're going to do something and then you follow through on it, when you're Dan Stevens, when you're as visible of a person as he is a face that when you go to a Grand Prix or a Star City Invitational or Open, that's a face you expect to see. He's got
he's there.
he's got the gray and brown beard. He's got the glasses. You expect to see him and Meg. They're like one of the most visible couples in the judge community. You expect to see him there.
Right.
Now we're not, and it's going to create a void where it's going to be a different experience because he's so experienced and so good at his job, and was such a major part of the Pacific Northwest judge community.
So for those who,
this is a problem that Wizards is going to have to address, I think, if this is only one of many. Well, it remains to be seen if this is going to start a movement. However, this is, even if it's just a lone blip on the radar screen, this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is really huge. Let me bring up something on the screen here for everybody. Dan and Meg Stevens have worked so much on the Open Series. They had enough what at the time was called these judge reward points to redeem for a prize. They redeemed the ultimate prize, which was they had Kristen Plesko, which I have up on the screen now, their token of Beauty and the Beast. They're connected tokens. There's Meg, there's Dan. They look amazing, obviously, because Kristen is unbelievable. And this is how sort of entrenched he's gotten into the judge program. And when somebody like this says, you know what, I'm so upset, I gotta walk away. That's no joke, and it's a big deal. And it's one of those things that, like, Wizards, there's this wonderful bit on Rick and Morty. It's like my favorite bit right now in the whole world. And Morty is explaining to Summer that she needs to get her crap together, and don't care how you do it, put it in a bag, take it to the crap store and sell it. Don't care. But you need to get your crap together.
All together.
Get it all together. Get your crap together when it comes to the judges. Seriously, this needs to stop. We need to stop hearing about Southeast judges aren't judging as much as they used to. The Northwest coordinator has decided to resign their position. People are upset. There's a judge cast that is from and details what happened to the Southeast judges. I don't even know exactly which cast it's from, but I'm sure a little bit of Googling will get you there. But regardless, it's not looking good, and it's time to turn that ship around. So talk to some of the people who are up in those levels and see what you can do. So
Dan is leaving. Have we heard from Meg? Is Meg also leaving?
That I have not heard from. I don't think he's speaking for her.
Okay.
Other than
I'm just
himself.
curious because Meg is also a very visible part of the Magic community, one of the best scorekeepers in the country.
Yeah, she really is.
So. That would be two huge blows rather than one.
Right.
It's really unfortunate. We've talked a lot on this show in particular, the last maybe 2 months in particular, about how the relationship between judges and Wizards of the judge program and Wizards of the Coast is unique and strange and needs to be readdressed. And yet again, it's coming up that the relationship is strained and needs to be looked at again on a serious level.
Yeah, it's just it's one of those things where I think a lot of mistakes were made, and it's not just going to be like, well, everybody's good again, right? We're cool, right? Everything's the same as it used to be before the oath leaks, right? ... So that happened, and wanted to touch on that briefly, just make sure that we noted that because that's huge in the Magic community right now. But we're going to move on to splash damage. Now, splash damage, we're talking about things that aren't necessarily from Magic but they can relate to Magic. And the first being that there was a blog post that was posted by Hearthstone, and Hearthstone is joining the standard way. Yay!
Yeah.
You mean they're implementing Siege Rhinos?
They're introducing standard and what they're calling the wild format,
Wow.
which is going to be legacy. That'll be vintage legacy.
It's vintage, basically. Everything's legal. It's fine.
Yes.
Right.
So there you go.
And so they're doing that, and they're calling it like some year. They're like every year they're going to rotate, so you can play the last 2 years.
Kraken.
This year's the year of the Kraken. Next year's the year of the summer. There's some zodiac that's attached to Hearthstone or something.
Sure, why not?
I guess, whatever. Apparently you have more deck slots now as well. That's another big thing. The arrival of standard. If you've unlocked all your 9 heroes, you get 9 more deck slots, so you can have up to 18. It's really weird how we kind of celebrate that we can have more than 8 decks in a game. This is really strange, honestly. But yeah, so they came out with, a new way to play. Again, I'm glad they chose standard. Some people were like, well, why didn't they choose something different? I'm like, don't fight the culture. If anything, if they said it's standard and vintage, it's not like Wizards trademarked these terms. Like, people would get it.
Right.
But, again, every year you'll be able to play with the same standard, like classic cards or whatever, but all the other stuff will rotate. So they can make a metagame that actually feels more real, more fluid. These days it's like, well, this is the best 4-drop, so you have to play the best 4-drop because it's the best 4-drop. Well, the best 4-drop will change.
Okay, so I admit I have not played very much Hearthstone. I think I unlocked all of the intro decks, then I said, just this is fun.
Sure.
So what is it like right now? Like, I know that there have been several expansions that have come out. So what is it like? Can you play all of those cards currently, or like what's the difference here?
Currently, so the way that it's happening is like, pretend this is like when they announced Extended was going to be a thing early in Magic's development. I don't know how many of our listeners have played that long. But
I wasn't even around for that.
Sure.
I mean, well, just give them the short synopsis.
In the beginning, there was one format, but as more sets came out and more expansions were released, then more powerful cards were introduced and less cards were there was less variability in the different types of decks. And so Hearthstone is running into the same life cycle problem here, where, there's a homogenization of the decks. They're becoming very similar. And that's what makes Standard so interesting, is that it cycles. It changes, it's fluid. People discover things as it grows and shrinks and grows and shrinks as it moves on.
Right.
Hearthstone's just doing that. This is not an unexpected change, certainly. This was something that we were anticipating. The fact that it's actually been announced is a big deal.
No, it's great. It's just that Hearthstone needs this kind of... Hearthstone happened by like somebody's random idea to make this online CCG thing and then completely exploded, which is why their organized play has been ridiculously sad, and they've had no formats and they only have 9 deck slots, because this was some dude's random idea that blew up and started making them hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah.
And now they're just like kind of going back and be like, oh yeah, this is kind of actually how you do this.
Yeah. It's just another part of the life cycle of Hearthstone, and the fact that, I still don't buy that it's, we didn't realize Hearthstone would be this big of a come on. It's fine. Whatever. If you didn't, then that's a mistake.
I get it from...
I just don't buy it.
From sources that I felt were reasonable, they were like, this was ultimately some guy's random, lark, essentially. Sure. Could it work? Maybe. They put some resources into it. It turned into an absolute blockbuster.
Has the Hearthstone community been excited about these changes? Like, are they looking forward to these formats? Okay.
They're excited that the changes are happening. You can now rank up to, if you know how Hearthstone works, you can now rank up to Legend in 2 different formats every month. So you have more things that you can do. If you hit Legend, usually most people aren't trying to hit like top 10 Legend to earn their trip to BlizzCon or whatever. Most people are like, hey, I hit Legend. That's my checkpoint, and then I'm done for the month or whatever. Right. Now you have twice as much stuff to do. The other cool thing that people are really excited about is that you have more deck slots, so you get to build more decks and keep them in your collection. Even though I usually destroy decks and rebuild and destroy. That's just the way I function. But a lot of people like having all of their ideas laid out in front of them. And the one thing that they're a little disappointed in is that older expansions that have cycled out and into the wild, because that's what it's called, will not be, the adventures will not be for sale. You can craft the cards after they're old, but you cannot buy the adventures, which is a little unfortunate. And I don't know why they made that decision, but that seems to be the big reason why people are upset about it. But the big takeaway from this is that Magic did it right the first time, and that they're using their big brother's ideas, and that's fine. They're allowed to do it, but this is just another example of how Magic figured it out in a lot of good ways, and so
did.
Imitation is the highest form of flattery.
Also, quickly, Google now returns the actual card name, results, picture of the card if you search for a Magic card in Google.
There you go.
Search for Tarmogoyf. You're going to see a Tarmogoyf. You're going to see it's a creature of Magic. It's got listed over there, and it's rules text and stuff. It's really sweet, which is great. And the last thing that we actually didn't cover in the pre-show, so I'm going to surprise Ruben and Aaron here. There was a new game that debuted at PAX South this past weekend. Right. It's called Eternal. Eternal is made by Direwolf Studios, that just so happens to employ LSV and Patrick Chapin. So
among others,
like Conley, I believe, also works there.
Yeah, Conley works there. Brandon Nelson, Matt Nass, I think, works there. Mm-hmm. Lot of names that you recognize from Pro Tour and Grand Prix coverage.
And what little I've heard about it is that it's a mix of Magic and Hearthstone, which I don't blame them. There's the best game design in the world, and there's probably the most fruitful card game that exists right now that makes the most money. So if you're gonna copy something, you want to make a remix. Those are the two you choose.
So does this mean that you're surprising Ruben and I with beta keys?
I wish.
Nice.
I'm begging for beta keys as it is.
I thought that's where we were going with this. Like, you didn't tell Ruben and I we were talking about this. I thought you were like, oh, and surprise.
Is the beta out yet?
No, not that I'm aware of. It's not out.
They just announced it at PAX
right.
South. Okay.
Yeah. If there is a string I can pull to get anywhere, it's in that beta.
If only you had a wide audience with which to ask for a beta key quite loudly from your soapbox.
Exactly.
Through a microphone. A magic microphone.
I assure you, I saw what you did there. I assure you, if there is a time in which I'm able to do that, I will call in the favors and get in the beta. It sounds great. I want anything that LSV and Chapin have been working diligently on. I can imagine it's one of the
smartest people on the planet.
There you go. So we're going to go into something called the red zone. The red zone is where things get a little serious, and we're going to get a little bit more serious, or at least a little bit more argumentative than usual. There's some positive. First of all, I want to note that I'm trying to be as positive as I possibly can in what we're talking about here. I hesitate to bring it up because I feel like it's going to get kind of construed as me trying to bash on something where I am not. And so there's this Kickstarter for classic art tokens, and I got it up here on the screen now. It's been doing fantastic. We're at $35,000. It's its first day. That's amazing. That's what, like 5 or 6 times its goal now, or 7 even. But you know, there was, and so again, I want to note that I think this Kickstarter is sweet, and I encourage everyone who likes them to go check it out and support them and get your own set of tokens, and they look really sweet, and I'm glad for that. The thing that kind of rubs me in not the kindest of ways is it feels weird taking all of this really classic, amazing artwork. I mean, you know, the Red Dragon, and you have the Wave, and I mean, you have American Gothic. Yeah, you know, I mean, you have some incredibly iconic stuff, and you are kind of copying and pasting it on top of a token. Again, I recognize everything's a remix. It's just it feels weird to me, and I can't really put my finger on exactly the emotions that it's causing, but it just makes me mildly uncomfortable, and I can't really put a better spin on it than that.
Yeah, I kind of feel how, like, so after all the judge suspensions happened, and after all that, you know, there were some people that were kind of, once the official spoilers for Oath of the Gaywatch came out, that were people that were a little on the hyperbolic side, if you will, and they were like, can I look at this? Can I retweet this? Am I going to get in trouble? And I have to admit, just even looking at these tokens, I feel like I need an attorney present, where I'm just like, this feels weird. This feels kind of iffy. And me personally, you know, I prefer to, well, first off, I just have to say that there's a tiny part of me that feels a little slighted that I didn't get some of these little sample tokens, because everybody in my feed who's all big and important was like, you know, I got sent some sample tokens, and they're like, you too, Aaron? And I'm like, nope. So a little salty about that. Just a tiny
I didn't
sliver.
get any either. It's okay.
I know, but I'm Aaron Campbell. But yeah,
Wow.
so I didn't get it. I didn't get a token, which is fine. But me personally, you know, I prefer. I'm more of a fan of the original art. You know, Rico Evangelo. He's the guy that did Gabby Spartz's Viper tokens. He just recently released a Merit Lage token, which is freaking adorable. It's a popsicle. I mean, go check it out. There's a playmat and everything. Stephen Raphael. I love just seeing things I've never seen before. Even the tokens that Star City does. Is that Kristen Plesko as well? Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, seeing Todd Anderson be the Beast, or he was a Beast, right?
Yep.
And Reed Duke was the Knight. That's something I personally want to see. Like, I want to see something fresh, original, you know, surprise me, amaze me. And this is just things where it's like, well, I could have printed this myself. Like, I just feel, I get it.
It's just a weird thing. So, Ruben, you are on the other side of this. Go for it.
You're both very wrong. All right.
Okay, sweet. We're excellently wrong. All right, great.
Come on.
This is why it's the red zone, and luckily I'm on the side of history.
Because you play red. Red zone.
Yeah, that's right. All right. So, I grew up playing Magic. I am smart more as a result and more learned as a result of playing Magic than I was because I went to high school. I know more SAT vocab words than I should because I played Magic. I used extirpate in a college paper, and my teacher didn't know what that meant. right? So I get to use all these fancy words. I know math more. I've been working under pressure. I've been playing matches for hundreds of dollars since I was 13, and that prepared me to give stand-up comedy a try, where I could be in front of groups of people. It prepared me to talk to people and be confident in myself and play poker for a living. Magic did all of these things for me. Another thing Magic did for me was it introduced me to high-level art. And very talented artists that work within Magic the Gathering, and gave me an appreciation for, every single card. The game would not be as nearly as exciting if it didn't have art on it. And the tokens are now another avenue for which new artists can come out and show their worth. However, just like there are flavor texts on Magic cards from Rime of the Ancient Mariner or Shakespeare plays or things like that, so too can we use art from the past that can inspire people in the future. Having William Blake's The Ancient of Days on an avatar token introduces people to who William Blake is, whom they might not otherwise know. The Fall of the Rebel Angels by Peter Bruegel the Elder is an old piece of art that you might not see in person because it's hanging in the Louvre. But it's available on a playmat and on a token, and now you get to see those. When you bring them to the card store, they're going to start discussions. Why is there a bunny rabbit on your playmat? Well, that's Hans Hofmann from 1585, The Hare in the Forest. That's why it's on my 3/3 Beast token. You get to teach about art in addition to teaching about math and language. I think that there's, while it may feel weird, I think that when you look at the benefit of introducing the classics in any form to Magic, there's only upside. I don't have any problem with this whatsoever, and I think it's a fabulous idea.
I think you give Magic players too much credit. I know people that can't even tell me why their cards are in their sideboard, and you think they're going to know enough about that playmat to give someone a history lesson?
I think someone who cares enough to seek out and purchase these products will probably have knowledge about them.
You don't think that people are going to ask questions when you have a unique piece of art in front of them?
I think people will ask questions, but I think if you, for example, let's say the zombie token here, skeleton with a burning cigarette, I think more people are going to get it because it looks cool than to know the etymology or the history behind that painting. I just don't think that's going to be most people.
I think that if something looks cool and you can sneak it into their psyche, if you can sneak classics and you can sneak the things that are great from our past into people in a way that doesn't offend them and doesn't make them think that they're not cool, this is a way to introduce people to classic art without it being hoity-toity, without it being
I knew you were going to take the educational route.
I agree that I think it's going to enlighten the person owning the token more than I will your opponent. I think the person owning the token might be more likely to want to know where skeleton came from, but I think I wonder though, the opponent, I just don't see it being that great of an experience.
Not every opponent is going to ask you, what is that? But some opponents might. Maybe someone walking by might. Maybe your opponent's friend who's watching the match isn't as interested in competitive Magic, but is interested in different aspects of the game. Just like we were talking about on the GP circuit, not everyone is there to only play Magic. People are there for other reasons. Sure. This could be one of those, things where it's a potential. If 1 out of every 100 people that sees the token goes, that's interesting, what is that? And then you're able to answer, that's one of Vincent van Gogh's pieces. And then they can go back and look at more Vincent van Gogh stuff. It's an opportunity. Not everyone has to take the opportunity. I am not offended by this in any way. It's all public domain, and I don't want to get into public domain law, but it's like this is all nobody's offended by the usage of the art.
Right. I'm not saying they're stealing anything. I'm just saying it just felt weird. I agree on the educational angle of, if you can just get one person to take a look at Monet, and Monet is amazing and one of my favorite artists of all time, and I hope there's some Monet stuff somewhere. But regardless, it's cool in that angle.
And the other thing.
Sure, there's probably, I can almost assure you there's going to be volume 2 at some point. Why? Sure. Because there's so much amazing artwork out there. And if there's, the people who want it and the people who'd like to produce it, well, here we go. So I also wouldn't be surprised if other product companies who make sleeves and playmats and binders will not also start finding classic artwork like this to put on those products. Why? Because some of it's absolutely fantastic.
So let's flip it the other way too. So you have a Magic player who suddenly becomes interested in art. What about an art person who suddenly becomes interested in Magic because they see this kind of stuff?
Sure.
So it's a wider appeal. I mean, certainly Rebecca Gay and Therese Nielsen and Edward Beard Jr. These are fabulous artists, but they don't have the wide-ranging appeal that Vincent Van Gogh has, or that Leonardo da Vinci has, or whatever. And this could be another opportunity to bring more people into Magic, as well as bringing more culture to current Magic players.
All right. So speaking of tokens,
yeah,
there's a new token in town.
Classic art.
So Gather the Townsfolk this week wanted to talk a little bit about some tokens and a little bit about a group of people that we'll get to in just a moment. But while we're talking about tokens, a new token was unveiled this week. I'll bring it up on the screen now. Owen Turtenwald as the ORAT.
Yeah. The ORAT cometh.
I mean, he's known to play a pack rat. He did very well with pack rat and earned him lots and lots of money and lots of fame and lots of pro points. And that's fantastic. It got him. He rode those rodents all the way to the platinum train. But I also want to bring on screen next to it, if you will, a film from 1986, because I'm old. I remember watching this on HBO when I wasn't supposed to. It's called Rat Boy, and Rat Boy
is not the direction that I was expecting this podcast to head in.
Yeah, it's a little absurd, but it's a horrible movie, absolutely terrible movie. But it's this boy or whatever who has got this deformity and he looks like a rat and people treat him like crap, and Rat Boy. And yeah, so that's where I kind of went with this, and it's weird. It's it's a way to be illustrated. What do you want from me, man? I can't say anything about this token. Oh my god.
If you're going to make an Owen Turtenwald token for ChannelFireball, and they have a history of making excellent tokens based on cards for their writers, this is the direction you got to go in. His nickname is literally the ORAT. What else are you going to do? It's amazing.
Wait. So you're saying that he's been called the ORAT before this token came out?
Oh yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
No, that's what he calls himself.
Oh, I didn't know that. I thought this was just
also the kid. About... He calls himself the kid.
I've at least
and also other people call him the kid in the ORAT. I'm not saying he made up these nicknames, but the ORAT is definitely a thing that his friends call him.
Oh, I didn't know that. Okay.
I did not know that either. Huh.
This is not just an out of nowhere thing. He is the ORAT, and also he played a lot of pack rats and was very good. So
sure,
I'm in love with this token, and it's great, and I love it.
It's a little absurd. Don't watch The Rat Boy. It's not a very good movie. You won't like it. I know I didn't like it. I was like, I stayed up late for this. This is horrible. But there is another group of wonderful human beings. Ruben, tell us about MTG the Traveling.
Right. So there's a couple of guys traveling across the nation who are traveling, that are Magic the Traveling. And as someone who likes the suffix ing on a lot of things with my news and interviewsing, I had a instant connection with these guys. These are two dudes who are traveling across the country, playing Magic and recording for a documentary, basically, and talking about and trying to get new people excited about Magic. And their tagline is "Find your battlefield." They want everyone to, not the Grand Prix circuit isn't necessarily for everybody. The Pro Tour isn't the end goal for everybody. Magic can be a lot of things to a lot of people, and so he wants to. These guys want to bring Magic to the masses and bring the folks who are at the kitchen tables, and while also bringing the folks who want to play on the competitive circuit. And they're just very passionate dudes from California, a little bit hippy-dippy kind of guys. But I went out with them to a place called Hogs and Heifers here in Las Vegas, which is, by the way, is fabulous. It's the place that Coyote Ugly is based on, and it is
and
Hogs and Heifers.
Wow!
It's a cowboy bar that is like what Coyote Ugly's based on, and like the waitresses have like megaphones and yell at you, and they dance on the bar. It's a great place. Anyway, we went out and hung out. It was me and Athena Elantris, the popular Magic streamer, and then these guys, and we hung out at the bar and we got to know them a little bit. They're
I see
super
someone's
passionate.
butt.
Yeah, well, this is an interesting bar.
No,
and
they
there's
took a picture of them like in the woods naked.
Oh
playing
yeah, I
Magic.
saw that. I was like, "There's a man butt. This is
Yeah.
weird."
I mean,
Well,
it's a good butt, but I'm just
sure
like,
there are very boisterous and entertaining dudes, and they just want to bring that boisterous energy to Magic. And so if you guys want to learn more about them, it's MTG the Traveling, and you can
Right.
follow them on Instagram and Twitter. And yeah, they're awesome dudes, and if you see them traveling across the country in your neck of the woods, contact them on social media. I'm sure they'd love to go out and meet some of the folks.
That's amazing.
So yeah.
So
This- Looking
ahead.
at this kind of reminds me of when I was younger and how I used to carry a deck with me everywhere I would go, and when me and my best friend would just play anywhere we could find a flat surface. Where we would play on the bus, we would play, on the floor, we would play, anywhere we could. And this kind of evokes that feeling in me of just, why do we only have to play in a game store? Why do we
Yep.
only have to play at a GP? I still, to this day, in my purse, I carry a deck with me wherever I go. If I'm at the airport, I'm always looking for people to play with, and I love that spirit. I love what this makes me feel.
They played on a mountaintop already.
Yeah, there's them on a bridge. I see waterfall.
They played on the bar against some of the waitresses. Or
Yeah.
with
played
some of
on the
waitresses.
ocean on a surfboard.
There's
There
a
you
weight
go.
room, like they're in a gym.
So yeah, the positivity these guys have is great, and all they want to do is make Magic more available and open and fun for everybody. So go support them; they're awesome.
And they're good at photography.
Yes,
Like they're good pictures. It'd
They
be
are-
really easy to do something like this and have it come out bad. Like, well, you need
Right.
a good camera.
They're
But
also
like,
doing documentary stuff. There will be a documentary of some kind after this is all over,
Right.
and they're photo documenting their way through right now. So
Great.
cool.
Yeah.
It's like hipsters of the coast, but the West Coast. Like,
yeah,
Yeah. So
that's cool.
MGC the Traveling, all one word, on Twitter or on Instagram.
5,000 Instagram followers. Over 5,000.
Almost
man.
6. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
It was
fantastic.
probably
let's
the
get
man
those
butt.
numbers up.
Yeah. Let's give
Man butts.
let's give him that Magic Mike's bump.
Yeah, that's right.
That's right. That's how we roll around up in here. So, as we do, we are going to link our way to the next segment. That would be the finisher. So we turn the corner here. And speaking of rodentia,
Yeah, we did talk a
Rodentia.
lot about rodentia.
a lot of rodentias going on. Yesterday, the United States observed one of its strangest holidays, Groundhog Day, in which we depend on a small furry animal to tell us what the weather will be like for the next month and a half. That's right, international people. That's what we do.
That's a thing. That's a thing that we actually do in real life.
And a lot of people get together and they celebrate it. It's crazy. So, in honor of our most rodent-themed holiday, how else would you propose we predict the future in Magic? Aaron?
Okay. Starting this February 13th and to be celebrated every year thereafter, Magic players will remove all proof of their past X's in their graveyards to the Exile Zone in preparation for Rest in Peace Day. Wow. Hate Rest in Peace.
That's great.
That rest in peace joke, man. You got those tires looking a little bald. You know what I'm saying? you got some serious. I'm putting an oil change in that thing.
They'll
driving
print
in a
another
while.
card that Aaron will hate with a white hot passion that won't die.
Right. It'll be great. Ruben?
On the eve of December 23rd, the coldest and shortest day of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, the Magic community shall henceforth look to the skies for the sign of our newest holiday, the Winter's Solstice, to predict the next Pro Tour winner.
Oh. Yes. So, once a year, until the trumpets blast to signify the end of days, at the rising of the first full moon of the year, a festival shall take place in honor of our Lord and Savior, to thank him for all he has given to us. On Richard, our holiest of days, Richard Garfield Day.
Amen.
Yes.
He emailed me once.
Did he really?
I still have it, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah,
Wow.
He knows. Richard Garfield knows who I am. Put that down. Yeah.
I've interviewed him and met him a couple times. He is an amazing person. That's great. So, Ladies and gentlemen, that ends another episode of Magic Mics. I would like to thank my two co-hosts for joining me, Ruben Bressler.
Thank you.
Aaron Campbell. You guys are great. And as such, we're going to move our way to our outro slide. So thank you guys very much for watching, and I want you to visit our website at magicmikespodcast.com. I'm going to be updating it soon, I promise. It exists thanks to our Patreon subscribers, or supporters rather, on patreon.com/magicmics. We want you guys to do everything social, online thing you can do to say that we exist. You can tweet, favorite, share, do everything social. Catch us online here at twitch.tv/magicmics, on Twitter at magicmicescast, on Reddit at reddit.com/r/magicmics, on Facebook at facebook.com/magicmics. Talk to us privately on magicmikespodcast@gmail.com. Follow the audio-only podcast at magicmikespodcast.libsyn.com, or find us on iTunes, or join us here next week. Same time, same place, for another episode of Magic Mics. Good night, everybody.